All right, we have everyone. So I'm going to call this. Oh wait, I'll get. Yep, we're recording. All right, I'll call this meeting to order for the Corporation of Township of Footsonge on October 21st, 2020. And I will start with roll call. Who's first? Councillor Spoulos? Is it Councillor Goida?
Jessica.
Councillor Goida, you're there.
Present. Yeah, I'm present.
Councillor Spoulos?
Present.
Councillor Bailey?
Present.
Councillor Balmer?
Present.
All right, thank you. And we will start our moment of reflection. That concludes our moment of reflection, and I will ask Ms. White Fox to read out our resolution for the confirmation of the agenda, please.
The council approves the October 21st, 2020 council agenda as circulated.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder, Councillor Bailey. Any questions or comments? No. All in favor? Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey,
Sorry, in favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest today?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Goida.
Thank you. I am declaring a potential pecuniary interest for item 6.5 and 6.6, which is the Township of Wellington North and Town of Minto aggregate resolutions. And the nature is, although I do not have a pecuniary interest in receiving the information, I do have a pecuniary interest in relation to decisions or discussions regarding the position of the township, and will, as a family member, operates an aggregate in the township. Sorry, that took a bit to get out.
No, that's fine. Thank you. All right. We got 3 minutes. Do we have anything for the consent agenda that councillors want removed? Councillor Balmer, do you have anything you want removed out of the consent agenda? Just because your video is off. Take that as no. Ms. White Fox, would you want to read the consent agenda, please? Resolution?
The consent agenda items listed for the October 21st, 2020 council meeting be received for information.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure. Move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder.
Sure.
Councillor Bailey, it's okay. Goida, Councillor Goida, seconded. All in favor? Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
and Councillor Balmer. I'm thinking we may have lost Councillor Balmer. He can't unmute his connection, so we'll check back in with Councillor Balmer. And then your future. All right. It's 3:03. Do we have, there he is. Were you there for that resolution, Councillor Balmer?
Yes, I was. Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can. I can hear you and see you.
Okay.
So you were in favor of passing that consent
Oh,
agenda
yeah,
resolution? Just for the record.
Yes.
It's 3:04 by my computer. That's darn close to the time for the delegation. Are they in the gallery, Ms. White Fox?
Yes, Ms. McDonald's here, so I can move her over now if you're ready.
Sure. Hello, Ms. McDonald.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Are you just joining us via audio today?
I had the video working, but for some reason it's not clicking over to video currently. I'll see if, oh wait, let's see. There was a lag. Oh, hi. Hi, sorry about that.
Much nicer to see a face. Okay, so you can start your delegation whenever you feel comfortable. And
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for meeting with me today. My name is Lee. I'm a resident of Puslynch, and I did want to bring up just an issue of concern that I currently have. We're basically looking at the volume of traffic, speed, and erratic driving on Victoria Road South, mainly between Maltby Road and Wellington Road 34. As you know, I'm sure everyone is aware that the speed and traffic is becoming more of an issue in Puslynch, and as noted through Lake Road as well as Aberfoyle, that was just posted last week in the Guelph Today article. And so the reason for my meeting today is just to kind of discuss the speed limit currently on Victoria at 70 kilometers and looking to have that reduced to a community safety zone as well, mainly through the stretch of Maltby Road and Wellington Road 34. I think really the issue in the last like 3-4 years, I think it's really increased, and the speed is becoming significantly faster. With it being posted as a 70 kilometer, often cars are traveling 15 to 20 kilometers faster on that stretch, which is, you know, with Victoria Road, it's not really designed for that. When you look at the number of cyclists, joggers, people walking their pets along that stretch of road, you have the blind corner near the pond and a hill coming down as well. And there are a number of homes and residential areas through that stretch that it's quite dangerous turning in and out onto that road. Something else I think is just the increased traffic with transport trucks along that road. And I know that it is listed as a no transport or heavy truck route, and you will see the flatbed trucks, heavy load transports coming up and down that stretch of road. And I think mainly because of the construction and the roundabouts that have now been are now over on the Brock Road side. I think the other thing that we had discussed was, I mean, OPP enforcement's only really a possible solution to this, to curb the speed and erratic driving. And just being a resident in that area, seeing the near mishaps and near collisions that you may have, I mean, traveling at about 100 or 90 along that stretch of road is really dangerous when you think of the number of kids that are in the area. There's a number of school buses that service this area, kids getting on and off, as well as people turning in and out of their subdivision or private lanes along that stretch. And there has also been, with the exotic car tours that come along this area, that's quite dangerous. You'll have a spotter in front of the fleet of cars looking for enforcement, and when it's all clear, they'll fly from Victoria to Maltby, like significant speeds. And as I mentioned, having the cyclists and no paved shoulder in this area, I think that's a real safety concern. I think the other thing that we had chatted about was the drag racing of certain cars along this stretch of the road. And you can see even just the markings on the road where these accelerate and race. And in fact, there was a near collision just a couple of weeks ago with a neighbor turning into the subdivision because a car was coming at a high speed in the opposite direction. I think there's a short-term and a long-term fix. I know there had been discussion of the traffic study, and with this study, I think would really focus on the volume, but not necessarily the other issues. And just being a resident of Puslynch, seeing the lane dividers that are currently located over on Wellington Road 36, I think that would be something that could be looked at during or throughout a certain stretch on Victoria. I think this would really curb the speeding, not necessarily volume, but I think by installing those lane dividers, you would really catch the attention of the driver to limit the unsafe passing and also note their speed. And I think the other thing with that is by installing those lane dividers, I don't think it would impact snow removal or emergency vehicles traveling that route, as it would really be a deterrent for those speeders and unsafe passers. And I think really with the corner of the pond And the blind corner, the hill, every winter, there's always a few cars that go through that barrier, as well as there have been some that have gone into that pond. And I really think that this is a safety issue, and the speed along this stretch of road has to be looked at and reduced just for the safety of the residents, as well as the drivers. And I really feel that if this is not addressed, I think at some point there will be a fatality at some point. So that was pretty much what I wanted to bring to your attention, and see if there's any questions or if you have any comments on that.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. I'll just quickly speak. I'm not sure if you're aware, but council has taken some actions because we do realize there is quite a bit of volume of traffic coming down that road. I personally penned a letter to City of Guelph staff requesting additional enforcement from Guelph Police to prevent the commercial vehicles from traveling down Victoria Road. I'm aware that they're coming down there, and that's not permitted. And unfortunately, when we received the response from the City of Guelph, they did not address that specific topic. So our staff is following up with Guelph staff. As for those road dividers, the county removes them on the county roads in November. They do pose an obstruction for plowing and winter maintenance. So I don't see that being a likely option year round, but they're also quite expensive. They're $400 per sign, including, municipal staff labor to install. So it's not a cheap fix for us, but I do believe we will do this traffic study. And I'm not sure if you're aware that the OPP put in for purchase these. They're called Black Cats, and they purchased 7 of them across the county, and they're going to be deployed across the county in hot spots where speeding complaints are an issue. And they're going to be purchased this fiscal year. I don't know if they've actually been purchased quite yet. And that's going to be an asset to us to get data on roads like yours, so we can look at it and say, yes, there is a problem here. There's excessive speeding. It can track which types of vehicles. So I see until we have our master plan, we really need to get the message clear to the City of Guelph that more traffic down Victoria Road is not acceptable to Puslinch at this time, and that commercial vehicle traffic needs to be directed towards the Hamlin where it belongs. So those are my initial comments. I'll open it up to council for questions. Councilor Goyda.
Thank you. And thank you, Lee, for taking the time to bring your concern forward today. I do have to say that I have experienced firsthand a lot of these things that you're speaking of, the speeding, the passing, especially lately, the organized exotic car groups, which seem to be touring through all the paved roads of our township on any given weekend. As recently as this past Thanksgiving weekend, there was a group of about 100 of them. So I know what you're saying, and I think, I'm not sure if it's due to COVID-19 or because of the nice weather we've been having this summer, but there also seems to be an astounding number of cyclists on any given day throughout the paved roads of the township. And I agree, this is becoming an increased concern and risk. That being said, you spoke about wanting to designate it a community safety zone. We do have a motion before us today, which Councillor Sapoulis put forward to request for consideration of a community safety zone on a county road. Victoria Road, however, is a township road, and unfortunately, the concerns that you are talking about today are not unique to Victoria Road. I can say for certain this is a concern along Watson Road, definitely throughout the hamlet of Arkle. I know that through various concessions, this is an issue. So to me, the best approach here would be to include an analysis in the roads master plan that we're undertaking hopefully next year to establish the criteria that would be required for a community safety zone. And I know that's not a quick fix and probably not what you want to hear, but I say this because there are a limited amount of enforcement resources. And because this is such a common problem throughout the township, I think in order to make the most effective use of those resources, it's important to establish what that criteria should be. So having said that, I would be in support of community safety zones being an item of consideration to be undertaken in the roads master plan, as long as the rest of council agrees. And hopefully that will help to address some of these concerns moving forward.
Councillor Goida, Councillor Spillis.
Yes, thank you, Lee. We had a nice chat. I'm glad you came forward to give your presentation. I agree with what Councillor Goida said, and as I indicated to you when we talked, this is township-wide, this issue, and it has to be a set of criteria, sort of prioritizes everything in terms of what should be done and what should be done where type of thing. So I think you have to be patient. I know we have numerous complaints from other residents, and I ask you, keep bugging us, keep telling us of the issues type of thing. The more you advise us, the more we know that is an ongoing issue. I'd like to ask our CEO, Glenn Swindiger, if he could answer the question with respect to the study.
Okay, sorry, what question with regards to the study?
I was making sure that you're there before I pose it.
Yes.
The study, have you scoped out it to include the safety zones as well in consideration as one of the mitigative measures to curb traffic concerns?
The document is still draft, but yes, this is one of the topics that is included to be reviewed when they do the master plan, yes.
Okay, and it's coming forward to the budget committee for review this coming week?
We're working on the timing, but it will be very soon, yes. We're going to try, yes.
Okay, so the dollars, we'll be looking at the dollars this budget meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Great, thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Great. Thank you, Lee, for coming forward today. I think a lot of your concerns are voicing what is happening across the township. So I think you're capturing kind of a lot of voices with yours today. So it was great that you came forward with that. I was also going to touch on the community safety zone concern, and again, just want to make sure that we will be coming up for a criteria for what that stipulates, and make sure that we can kind of nail that down. I'm just thinking here, we are in the midst of creating a Puss Lynch Safe Communities group, and some of the conversation in that will be around education. We know that a lot of the traffic coming through is not even Puss Lynch residents. So it's hard to kind of educate those that are coming from outside the township, but we're going to try to do a big focus on road safety, and I'm hoping that at least from the grassroots up, we can try and help with some of these issues. So I don't have any questions, but I just really want to thank you for bringing it forward, and hopefully we'll be able to work on these in the near future.
Councillor Bailey. Councillor Balmer.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. In many ways, you're preaching to the choir here. I live on Watson Road, roughly straight across from, I believe, where you live on Victoria Road. And I've had the opportunity to cycle up and down Victoria Road as well. And over the years, I certainly have seen the impacts of increased growth around us in Guelph and Cambridge, and even here within the township, generating more and more traffic and more traffic concerns as we have more and more driveways and people concerned about getting in and out of their place. But when you were speaking, it took me back to a presentation that council received many years ago from a Mrs. McMurray, who also lived on Victoria Road. And back then, the concern was simply they wanted to get a line painted on Victoria Road around the pond, because we didn't even have those then. And I was encouraged that by a resident bringing forward an idea and a concern to help navigate people around the pond at night and in the fog, it led to now we have lines on all of our roads. It was amazing. It wasn't that long ago when we didn't paint lines on roads like Victoria or Watson, but it was thanks to a resident bringing it forward that we started that practice to improve road safety. So while it may take time, from what you've heard from other members of council about waiting for studies and things, rest assured that hearing from residents from across the township is going to help guide this decisions. You mentioned the 70-kilometer speed limit you have on Victoria Road. I can tell you there are several residents on Watson Road who are quite envious of your ability to have a 70K speed limit while we still have an 80 along the hilly sections of Watson Road. So I know there's interest across the township to achieve elsewhere what you're trying to achieve in Victoria Road. So I can't imagine we're not going to see some changes somewhere. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Ballmer. Question for the CAO or Deputy CAO. Do we have bylaws that spell out the speed limits on each particular road section?
The way the process works is it's defined in the Highway Traffic Act that certain classification of roads are a default speed limit unless listed otherwise in a bylaw. So by default, they will be, I believe it's the 80 and the 50, unless you designate it otherwise specifically.
When I was a young man many moons ago, there was a maximum 60 sign just north of 34 on Victoria Road, just past the no heavy truck sign, and then it disappeared. And I'm curious to see if it was there in error or if that's actually a 60 zone and somebody's removed the sign. Is there a possibility for staff to look into the bylaws to see if that should be signed as 60 zone?
Absolutely, we can check that.
Okay, thank you. Lee, I would suggest if you have the time, I know this is through the day, if you could stick around for the discussion around the correspondence, which actually won't be too long from now, because it revolves around the community safety zones and some direction the county's taking with speeding and traffic concerns on the county infrastructure. So
Okay.
we really appreciate your delegation and thank you for coming.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
Just when you mentioned the items called the black cats, are those similar to what is currently in Aberfoyle, where it has like the flashing sign that'd tell you if you're going too fast? Like it almost looks like a construction stand. I think currently it's in front of the Aberfoyle Mill restaurant. Is that what that is? No? Oh.
No. So historically, and Councillor Bowman might be able to correct me on this, countywide, the Wellington OPP had 2 speed spies, maybe 3 speed spies. And what these things were is you could attach them to a tree, a post, well, probably most likely a street sign post. And through some means, they could measure speed and amount of cars, and you could get a nice little graph, and it would tell you how many people are speeding, how many are obeying the speed limit. Problem was they're older, they're starting to fail, so they requested at the Police Services Board of the county to purchase 7 of these new Black Cat devices, and they're essentially the same thing, just brought up to modern technologies. And so these Black Cats, you mount them to a post, they can measure 2 lanes of traffic, and they can differentiate between commercial motor vehicles and just regular residential vehicles, and tell you all the same information, speed, and how volumes, all those things. So they're going to be a huge asset in determining, any action if need be on roads like yours that you have concerns. We could have them deployed for a week or 2 at a time and capture all that data and review it. So they're going to be quite a nice little tool in the toolbox for us to help people like yourself with their concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you also for looking into the 60-kilometer posting that you mentioned that was at one place that is no longer, to see in the bylaw as well.
I'm telling you, the sign was there. I don't know if it was supposed to be there, but it hasn't been there for, I would say, 15 years.
Okay.
Because the OPP used to sit there and ticket people, so I did not get the ticket, but anyway, so thank you again. Have a great
Okay.
night.
Thank you.
That was it. Okay, do we have a resolution for that delegation?
Yes.
Wait.
That the delegation by Lee McDonald with respect to community safety zones be received and that this request be included for consideration as part of the Township Transportation Master Plan.
Mover for that, please. Counselor Bailey. Seconder, Counselor Goida, all in favor. Counselor Goida,
In favor.
Counselor Spillis,
In favor?
Counselor Bailey,
In favor?
and Counselor Ballmer.
In favor.
Okay, that's fast. Thank you, Lee. My cell phone is ringing in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, we have a public meeting. Are we all cleaned up? Yep. All right, so we have a public meeting October 21st, 2020. That's today, being held by electronic participation at 7 p.m. The housekeeping amendment to zoning bylaw 023/18. These are township initiated housekeeping amendments that affect all lands in the township of Foothills unless otherwise specified. We'll see everybody back here at 7 p.m. Report. All right, we have report finance 2020-036. Does Ms. Hassan want to give us a full note version of that one for council's consideration?
Yes, so the report is just seeking council's direction as to whether 357 and 358 application write-offs are approved, and there's a schedule in the report that just discusses the amount of the write-offs for the year 2020.
Thank you. I'll get a mover for it. Councilor Sapoulis, yeah, seconder. Anybody? Councilor Bailey, all right. Any questions? Councilor Goida, do you have any questions on the report?
I have no questions. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, speak now. You don't need to go around the room. Okay, all in favor? Councilor Goida,
In favor.
Councilor Spillis,
In favor?
Councilor Bailey,
In favor?
and Councilor Ballmer.
In favor.
All right, and another admin, all the proposed council committee and budget meetings, right? Yes. So this all looks good. The only thing I'm gonna ask council is, I find the 9 a.m. My morning's a little difficult to make for the upcoming budget meetings. Is there any appetite to start at 11 a.m. or would that complicate things? My mornings are very booked up. So is there, would you be supportive of that? I asked Mr. CAO and Ms. White Fox if that would cause any conflicts with them. Maybe they could speak to that. Are you comfortable going to 11 or does that cause difficulties?
We can make that work.
Yeah, Ms. White Fox, does that affect you and your family at all?
Nope, 11 a.m. would work.
And Ms. Hassan?
It would work, just to remind everyone that these budget meetings take a while, so.
Council Goida, any thoughts?
I don't have a problem starting at 11, but it can pose some challenges in terms of the kids coming home from school, which is at 3:30 for me. I would assume it's realistic that we'd be done by 3:30, but I guess that's no guarantee, and that would be my only challenge with it.
Councilor Spillis?
Yeah, we start at 11. People would want to have a lunch break or something like that. So it looks like we would break off and protract the meeting longer. If we start at 9, we can push it till 12, 12:30 and they'll be done. But I'm ambivalent. I'm okay. The rest of us want to change it to 11.
Sorry, so you're saying you don't want to change, Councilor Spillis? That's what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm okay. It can go either way.
Okay, sorry. Councilor Bailey,
I can make that work.
Councilor Ballmer,
Yes, I think I like Councillor Sapoulis's word, ambivalence. That's where I am as well. So I'd gladly make it work.
let me look at my schedule and the bookings I have, and maybe I can I'll try to work with Mr. Schwendinger and maybe go to 10 a.m. or 10:30, but if council's comfortable with just moving it out a little bit, I think I can make it work. I just got a lot on my plate right now. So if council's comfortable with that, the latest it would be is 11. Maybe we'll move, I'll try for 10. See if I can move some stuff around. Are you comfortable with that? Head shakes?
Yep.
What
Mr.
we need to do
Yeah.
though is we do need to approve the meeting schedule so that it can be posted publicly. So I think we should select the time now, and then if we want to adjust it, we can issue an amendment, but we do have to post a time now so that we can meet the posting requirements.
Let me just look real quick. I think I can make 10 work. It'll be tight, but if council's comfortable with 10, I'll make 10 work. I appreciate the support on that. That'll give us a little more room before the school bus comes. So,
Thank you. I
do we need a
appreciate that.
resolution? Do we need a resolution for that? A separate resolution?
Can I ask a question
Councilor
first?
Bailey? Yep, absolutely.
I believe March 17th is on March break. So I don't know if you know, if we normally have meetings on March break. We didn't know if that date could be bumped to the 24th.
Courtney, I'll defer that one to you.
Yes, we can move it. We have 5 weeks in March, I believe there, so it still would give us a week break between the next meeting in April. So I think we could move
Yeah.
the March 17th to the March 24th.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
As long as everyone else is okay with that.
I'd like to move both of them. Move the 3rd and they were getting complicated. Okay. Everybody okay with moving the 17th to the 24th? Head nod.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other comments on that one? No? Okay, so we'll need a amended resolution to move the 17th meeting to the 24th and the budget meetings to start at 10 a.m.
Okay, that council adopts the 2021 council committee and budget meeting schedule attached as Appendix A to report ADM 2020-038, and that the scheduled budget meetings for the 2021 calendar year be moved to 10 a.m. and that the March 17th meeting be moved to March 24th, 2021.
Okay, you're gonna move it for that, please? Councilor Lewis, seconded by Councilor Bailey. All in favor? Councilor Goida?
In favor.
Okay, Councilor Lewis,
In favor.
Councilor Bailey,
In favor?
Councilor Balmer.
In favor?
I'm in favor, that's carried. All right, next up is the report ADM 2020 Euro water quantity proposals. All right, who wants to speak to this first? Do we have Mr. Davis coming for this or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Courtney's just going to connect them now.
Hey, there he is. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How's everyone? Good.
Excellent. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Sealy, members of council. Here today to present to you a report for your information regarding a series of environmental registry of Ontario postings that have been put up for public consultation from October 6th until November 20th of this year. These are the first set of proposals that have come out of the summer proposal on the water quantity framework, Ontario's water quantity framework. So these changes are, these proposed changes to the Ontario Water Resources Act and the Environmental Protection Act relate to requiring municipal support for new or increased bottled water takings. Some proposed modifications to the environmental activity and site registry requirements related to lower risk water takings, predominantly pumping tests, and also a proposal to exempt dams from requiring a permit to take water. I'd be happy to take any comments and any questions on the report.
Excellent. One just popped in my mind. This would be interesting. If the city of Guelph, do they have a water taking permit for the Arkle Springs well?
Yes.
If they go to increase that, we could veto it?
No, not under the proposal is specific to new or increased water bottlers.
Okay. Excellent. So I'll open it up to council. And I believe, Mr. Schwendinger, you had a couple recommendations from staff you wanted to add. Did you want them put on the table now, or do you want to wait till later?
Well, maybe we'll
Fair enough.
council have their questions and then we can add that.
Okay. Councillor Goyda.
Thank you, and thanks. I do have a couple of questions. First of all, thanks very much, Kyle, for putting these comments together. I certainly found them extremely helpful in understanding what's taking place here. I have two questions, and the first, they're both actually in regards to the ERO 0192422. And the first is in regards to the sort of comment number 4, which talks about within our municipalities, there are a variety of opinions regarding whether the host municipality requirement should be expanded beyond water bottling permit to take water to include any new or expanded permit to take water. And I'm just, I'm very interested to learn what the rationale would be for those municipalities who do not support expanding that requirement to be for any permit to take water. I'm not sure if you're able to share what has been discussed, or if just to help me understand that point of view.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can talk generally, of course, about kind of some of the pros and cons on it. So from the perspective of not expanding it to include other takings beyond water bottlers, some of the discussion has been around the fact that this is a provincial Ministry of Environment decision and approval process, and that although there's not a requirement in this proposed change to require councils to provide their rationale why they would essentially veto or say no, there may end up being kind of de facto kind of required to explain to an applicant why they're saying no. So there's not a requirement in the proposed legislation for council to detail like a scientific or technical rationale, but the concern is that there still might end up being the questions. Well, why are you saying no? And since townships don't have technical staff generally on staff, we generally use consultants. It could become costly and time consuming to provide at a staff level to provide the support and to support the recommendations if broadened beyond water bottlers. So the concern, as it's been expressed to me, is it takes what's now a scientific and technical process at the Ministry of Environment and makes it a quasi-technical process with a potential political dimension to it. And so it could be construed as a form of downloading from the province, even though it is giving a mechanism to give local communities more say. From the yes perspective, for the perspective of, because I did mention there's a variety of opinions when I talked to our municipalities about this, both now and back in the summer when this was first proposed. From the yes perspective, the ministry's science review backs up that all uses should be considered. In the various scientific reviews completed back or posted back in July and August through the Environmental Registry Water Quantity Framework, the water bottling was not determined to impact the sustainability of groundwater resources in Ontario or other water resources. Their expert panel agreed with that conclusion. So therefore, it would follow that to appropriately manage water quantity, all large volume users should be looked at, and that there's not a scientific reason to single out just one subset of the industry, i.e. water bottlers. So therefore, you could argue the policy framework, which is what the proposal in front of us is about, should be structured to look at all large volume users equally. So there's definite pros and cons on both sides. And my job, I just sort of present both of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Goyda, was your question line also about why municipalities wouldn't be in favor of encompassing these other water taking permits?
Yeah, like I'm trying to understand why we're singling out water bottlers as opposed to all water takers. and I think I've got my answer.
Political.
Yeah. Okay, and is it okay if I carry on, Mayor Sealy?
Absolutely.
Okay. My second question is in regards to the same ERO posting. And there isn't a specific comment about it in your report, but when I went to the actual ERO posting, it reads that a water bottling company that obtains its water from a municipal supply would not require a resolution of support from the local host municipality. And I am finding it very unclear it's unclear to me how a company who obtains their water from a municipal water supply, which ultimately comes from the same place, is different from those who take it directly from the ground. I don't understand how taking it from the municipal supply magically changes the impact of the water taking. So I'm trying to wrap my head around, I don't know if you've had any discussions around that, or if you want to make a comment. Okay.
I can answer this question. I'm just going to lay it out there because that's my style. This whole thing is to fix the Middlebrook well problem in Center Wellington. With Nestle buying that Middlebrook well and wanting to expand operations, it got everybody upset. So this fixes that problem. So now to get a well up there, you'd have to get approval from Center Wellington Council. So this essentially takes this problem off the province's hands and then downloads it to us. So now we're going to be dealing with political pressure from lobbyists and groups for this this permits to take water, maybe from Nestle or whatever, that the science proves that it's sustainable and renewable, but then we're going to be forced with having possibly the option to veto it. So I believe Councillor Ballmer's recommendation that we delegated to the MECP about was making this part of the zoning process, so that we take the politics out of it, was an excellent resolution to this. So it's really the only fix they're trying to fix is the Middlebrook well in Center Wellington, Councillor Goyda. That's what it is what it boils down to. So,
okay, so thank you, Mayor Sealy, which this is my gut feeling, but I guess so based on that, I guess I would like to believe that the intent of the changes is to help protect water's resources. That's what I am hopeful of, because ultimately that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in playing this political game. I'm interested in protecting the water. So and I remain unclear as to why these requirements are being put in place for water bottlers only, especially when it's written right on the posting that they've concluded that the impact of bottled water takings is less compared to other permitted water takings. So I would like to suggest a couple of comments for this this ERO, and I believe Councillor Sapoulis may have a motion for some comments as well. So I'm not sure if I should make a motion or if these can be considered as add-ons to Councillor Sapoulis's motion, but I would like to suggest that. Sorry.
What I'll do is, why don't I let the councillors all have an opportunity to just state their opinions, and then
Okay.
I'll circle back with you, and don't let me forget, and then you can.
Okay. So my suggestion would be that we provide a comment that the local host municipal council requirement should be expanded to include any permit to take water within, as is in Mr. Davis's report, to include within the stressed area, wellhead protection areas for quantity, and areas with high numbers of permit to take waters, as it's indicated in this report. And also that this requirement should be expanded to all water bottling, regardless of whether it is on a municipal water supply. Those would be my two comments, and perhaps the rest of council would like to comment on those as well.
Just when you first started to read that, Councillor Goyda, did you say all water bottling permits or new and expanded? Because
new and expanded, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to get into a situation where
just new and expanded.
Existing use. Okay, awesome. Is that it for now? I'll go to Councillor Spoulis. Councillor Spoulis.
Yes, in respect to Councillor Goyda's comments, we provided an extensive table that responded to this ERO. And I believe we picked on that, your first comment. the second comment with respect to including water bottle facilities within municipalities, I don't believe we picked on that, but certainly the other one we picked off in that extensive table. I guess a question of Kyle, the ERO proposal 1925. You've got two recommendations in there that make sense to me, and I'll be moving that they be included in our comments with respect to that ERO. Has there been any incidences that you recall that precipitated you reminding this? I'm trying to recall any. The only one I recall is something in Cambridge a long time ago when they did some pumping tests, and so residents on the west side of Portsmouth weren't aware of it. I don't know if you know of any other instances.
Certainly through you, Mayor Seeley. There are occasionally instances where pumping tests occur, and we find out about them just before, or in some cases, the example you mentioned, after the fact. So yes, there have been some incidents where that has occurred, and these are in a situation where the ministry staff is actually involved in the review, and sometimes notifications don't happen. So that's why I put in the recommendation number 2.
Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey?
To unmute me. Kyle, thanks for your report. I as well found it really great to read, and it helped clarify some stuff for me. I'm just wondering if you can just speak to the significance of the 379,000 liters a day. I'm just wondering if you can put that into context, say compared to an average rural well, just to give me and maybe the public just an idea of what that number looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mayor Seeley. So an average typical water consumption use for like a residential home is generally in the range of 200 to 300 liters per person per day. So if you were looking at, say, a residential home of 4 people, even at 300 liters per day, that'd be about 1,200 liters per day 1,200 liters per day for the house, and that would actually be fairly high. Probably even looking at 600 or 700 liters for a 3 or 4 person household. So that would be the comparison then to the 379,000 liters per day, or even the 50,000 liters per day, which is a permit to take water threshold. So for an average typical residential home, that tends to be a lot less, a lot smaller.
Right. So, and you've mentioned in here the need to properly manage the cumulative impacts. So then the 50,000 liters per day, you're saying it wouldn't result in any more applications, but it would allow for the managing of the cumulative impacts.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Seeley, what I meant by that was that because this is currently limited to water bottlers, there's probably not that many more applications. There's not a lot of like new or expanded water bottling applications that are coming, so that they wouldn't end up with too many more. But yeah, the 50,000 to the 379,000, to me, the 379,000 liters is a threshold from the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Agreement on sort of a large significant impact on a Great Lakes basis. Whereas 50,000 is the permit to take water threshold. So it makes sense to set it at the threshold where you need to get a permit to take water. So then you can look at the cumulative impacts of all the different takings in the area.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Balmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, I absolutely support the need to get those extra recommendations in there regarding pump tests. As you know, I'm well familiar. There's been that pump test recently on Forest Hill Road that we weren't included in, and you know that's another municipal well, and we're going to inherit that wellhead protection area. I think we should have been involved right from the start, and I think you know the monitoring of that pump test needs to also be focused equally on both sides of the border, not predominantly on one side. And to ensure that happens, we need to be involved as early as possible. So I want to see those added as well. To speak a little bit to Councillor Goyda's points, I agree 100% that there is some magical thinking going on here, and there is some suggestions that municipal water is magical water that is produced without impact, and I concur that it's absolutely absurd that whether the water taking is connected to a municipal system or not, it shouldn't. It's still the same impact to the natural environment. But I will go back to my previous comments. I think water taking is not a land use, and I think it's through our land use process that we best serve our residents in determining where and when we have water bottling or any other water taking. The challenge becomes, of course, when we're dealing with large municipal takings or water takings without an associated land use, such as in Erin or municipal wells here in the township that have, take multiple times more. I mean, we look at water taking permits in Arkell for 20 and 40 million liters a day compared to the 2 million or 3 million that Nestle's might take out of Aberfoyle. And those municipal takings are sufficient enough that they have measurable impacts kilometers away. You can see it in monitoring wells. Other people's monitoring wells respond when the city of Guelph's pumps come on, which is something you don't see associated with things like Nestle or other smaller water takers. So it is very ironic that this so-called gift of being able to say no for a water taking permit for water bottling is the one we've been given. But I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'd want it for any of them. I think it is our land use planning process that gives us the strength. And I think what we need is better say in those that aren't part of the land use planning process. And whether that's, to deal with things like the Middlebrook well, the Erin well, or the Guelph, City of Guelph wells, or regional municipality wells whose wellhead protection areas extend well into our community. And sometimes the wells are even located in our community. I know we have a seat at the table to comment on the application, and they have often given us our comments good weight, but we have seen also that things that have been identified have not been addressed through that process. So that's where I see the holes, is making sure that when something is addressed, it gets taken into consideration. But honestly, I'm not sure I would want this veto power for any of them, because that politicizes what is otherwise a technical decision. And that system seems to have been working well to date in terms of depoliticizing it and focusing on the science of the water taking.
Thank you. All right. So Councillor Goyda, you read your two additions. Did Councillor Sapoulis, did you have something you wanted to add to Councillor Goyda's recommendations? Oh, you're muted.
I believe staff have put that together, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I'll have staff read that council resolution. See what's in there.
Okay, so that report ADM 2020-039 regarding environmental registry number 019-2422, 019-2525, and 019-2517, proposals to amend legislation related to water takings be received for information, and that staff provide report ADM 2020-039 in addition to council's comments as the township's formal comments on the Environmental Registry of Ontario proposals as listed in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Balmer, do we want to add a component of that? Our position is that we think it should be a land use approval, and that we don't agree with the veto power? Because I'm on your side with that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, but I would, on this point, I think I would concur with Councillor Sapoulis. I believe we submitted those comments as part of a previous thing. We're now where we are. The province chose not to take our sage advice on on this matter. So, you know, we are where we are. I would prefer it was different, but at the same time, Kyle has put a lot of work into it, and you know, so thank you, but
Okay,
you know, but there we are.
we get a mover. You want to move that? Then we can discuss it real quick. Mr. Bowmer?
Did we want to add anything from Councillor Goita's comments to that resolution?
I believe Councillor Spoulos was comfortable with it's in the report, your two recommendations that the clerk be notified. Councillor Spoulos?
I only commented that the first point that Councillor Goita made, we did not cover off on our previous submission. Her second comment with respect to having the water taking for bottling as part of a municipal's water supply, we did not incorporate that.
Okay, so Ms. Hoy Fox, do you need to read yours again, Councillor Goita, the first part, so that it's included? Then we can discuss it.
The part about the municipal water supply, is that what we're speaking of right now?
I believe so.
Okay, so that the requirement for council, the local host municipal council requirement should be expanded to all water bottling companies, regardless of whether it is on a municipal supply. You can reword that in whichever way makes the most sense, but that was the point in terms of that. And then the other one was that, sorry, and I do agree with Councillor Balmer that I would rather not this be a political issue and have veto power on really any of them. But if we're going to be granted veto power on one, then I am asking that, you know, we should have that same veto power on all, especially in the sensitive and stressed areas. So that was the other component to what I was suggesting, and I'm not sure if you know, that should be added to this, or if what we've submitted previously encompasses that, or if there's any harm in resubmitting it, as this is now a new ERO posting. I'm open to any of that, but that was just my suggestion.
So we did submit earlier about, you know, wanting to cross all water permits, water taking permits. I'm comfortable with resubmitting it again. They didn't listen the first time, so maybe they'll listen the second time. You know, it is, you know, and I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but I do want them to know that this is still on our radar and that we don't agree with it. So I'd be comfortable with both of those amendments. And Councillor Spoulos, are you comfortable with those, even though
I'm
it's
good, I'm
duplication?
fine, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mr. Schwendinger, was there anything there that we've missed that staff felt they wanted included?
No, the thoughts we had were raised by council members already, so that's good.
Okay, so Ms. White Fox, you have that captured, and if not, it'll be on YouTube tomorrow.
Yes, I added both of Councillor Goita's comments there.
And if I
Excellent.
could, Mr. Chair, if council is interested, then in, as you said, repeating, I don't mind repeating either. If we want to talk about the land use process, putting that back in there, I'd be fine with that. And I think Councillor Goita is on the right track. It should be all or none.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, if we can clarify that in the resolution, that'd be great.
I would like to see it because I'm thinking a little bit into the future. We have Roma, virtual Roma coming up. There'd be another opportunity to get in front of a PA or the minister and push home this part of the planning process is where this belongs. And so I'd like to duplicate it again. If council's comfortable with that. I see some nods.
Sure.
You got that, Ms. White Fox? Not that you didn't do a great job, Kyle. It's just, you know, we
Oh,
want to try to capture everything.
absolutely. No,
It's a
it's,
good report. It's a
Yep.
great report. Thank you. Okay, so we have a mover for that. I forget already. We've been bouncing around a little bit. Did we get a mover, Ms. White Fox?
Yes, we have Councillor Balmer moving, and we're just looking for a seconder.
Okay, I need a seconder. Councillor Sapoulos. Any further comments before we call a vote? No. All right, all in favor. Councillor Goita,
In favor.
Counselor Spoulos,
In favor.
Counselor Bailey,
In favor.
Counselor Palmer,
In favor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Goida for making us think more deeply on this. Thank you.
good job. I'm in favor as well. That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for looking after our water.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. ADM 2020-040 draft proposed kennel bylaw. I don't suppose Ivan's here. All of council's had a chance to read it. So what I'll do is I'll just,
Nope.
pardon me, Mr. Schwendiger? Nope. So
No,
I'll just
he's
open
not
it.
here.
Okay. So we've all had a chance to read it. I'll just go around the room and see if there's any additions or changes you'd like to see. Councilor Goida.
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
You, okay, Councilor Spoulos.
Yes, I have several comments to make. Page 68, clauses 3.6 to 3.9. I'm suggesting they better be located under section 7 or 8, and that would affect the table on page 82 of moved. The clauses 3 to 6 talk about obtaining tags, and then all of a sudden you get the kennel license thrown in that section. So I thought it'd be better to move it to section 7 or 8. Next item was 817. It's a housekeeping thing. I suggest include metric scale for the drawings. Then there's two clauses there, 17.4 and 17.6. I'll read 17.4. It says, where the township is satisfied that a contravention of this bylaw has occurred, the township may make an order. Now, so my question is, why use the word may instead of shall?
Mr. CAO.
I would have to wait for a response to that. I'd have to check with our bylaw staff on the wording for that. I don't know the reason for the wording that way.
Okay. My approach is that if there's a contravenance, we do it. I don't know why we sort of be ambivalent about it.
I believe, and this is just my layman take on this, is it's just nice to give your bylaw officer the option to work with the individuals before pressing charges. So if it's something minor, then they may, take action, right? So that's why it's may instead of shall, because typically you want to try to work with them first, and then if they don't comply, then you would charge them. So we'll get Ivan to report back on that, but that's my 2 cents on that. But,
That's all I have.
okay, we'll deal with Councillor Spoulos quick. I don't see any problems with them. They seem like good recommendations. Mr. Schwendinger, are you comfortable? Well, I'll go Councillor Goida. Are you comfortable with Councillor Spoulos' recommendations?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, Councillor Bailey. Yep, Councillor Bulmer. And I'll
Yes,
come
and
back to you.
And I appreciate your clarification between the shall and the may. I initially supported Councillor Spoulos' approach to shall, but I do like the work with, and which gives me some more comfort for the may wording, subject to what the bylaw enforcement officer has to feedback on that.
Okay. Mr. Schwendinger, are you comfortable with Councillor Spoulos' recommendations? At this point, we'll get Ivan, I guess, to report back.
All good.
Okay.
We just want to make sure. We just want to make sure everyone's on the same page, and then we can report back to you.
Okay, and then we'll go Councillor Bailey. Do you have any recommendations?
I did just have a question. I had noticed in a different bylaw that they had a registry for guide dogs and special assistance dogs, and that they didn't pay tag fees. And I didn't know if that discussion has come forward at all, or if we wanted to talk about that at all. There was also, in terms of breeding kennels, this other bylaw had suggested that there should be proof of a membership within the Canadian Kennel Club or any other association under like an Animal Pedigree Act or something, and I don't see that in ours. And in terms of sporting and hunting dogs, so same thing, proof of a membership in an affiliated association. So I didn't know if that wanted to be added as well. And then I just wanted to confirm, I think this was 11:05, or no, 11:15. Breeding kennels, can you just confirm that we're not allowing that in a dwelling?
Mr. Skinniger? We will may have to get back.
Yeah, we can get back to you. We'll
Yeah.
look into that and get back to you. I've noted your questions down here, and those we'll look into and get back to you.
Yep, I think that was it. And maybe if you can just clarify, maybe this is done just in a site plan, but it does say in 10.1, talks about the distance from all different structures, I think on the property. Sorry, I'm just gonna try to go to it. 10.1.2. So it talks about the revised site plan drawn to scale, showing locations of building structures, et cetera. I'm wondering if it should also show distance from any water sources. Or if that's done somewhere else when they get a permit or.
Okay. You'll have to-
Valid
probably have
question.
to-
We'll look into it.
Okay, and that's it for now.
A little bit of expansion on the service dogs. I'm a little bit naive on that topic, but is there some sort of government agency that lists what service dogs are? And does it gets pretty thick, pretty complicated, Matthew?
Or a chicken.
So
Right.
this has been an issue, if I could, Mr. Chair. There was for the longest time, the province maintained an act for seeing eye dogs. You get actually, the OPP regulates what is a seeing eye dog. However, it has now opened up, the service animal definition is very broad. It's an
Mhm.
issue that universities and municipalities, we've dealt with this at the Accessibility Advisory Committee at the county. Lots of municipalities have struggled with trying to define what is a service animal. Considering there are online services where you can go on, check a box, and they'll send you all the necessary papers to register your dog as a service animal. So it's pretty broad beyond a seeing eye dog. Not to say there aren't legitimate service animals out there, but it is difficult to limit what is actually a service animal.
I would just like.
I would look
staff
to the
to-
county for direction on that. They have some wording around that.
Yeah, if staff could just follow up on that, and
Yeah.
I don't want it to be an avenue for people to circumvent the system, but I want to be applied appropriately when possible.
We'll look into it.
Thank you. All right, any further comments before I have the resolution read?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, Councilor Bulmer, sorry, I skipped you. Sorry, buddy. I
Is
forgot.
everybody okay with Councillor Bailey's comments?
Everybody good with Councilor Bailey's comments?
Yes.
Your go, Councilor
Okay,
Bulmer.
thank you very much. My comments are pretty much focused on sections 8 and sections 10. Section 8 relates to licensing of kennels, and section 10 relates to the altering of kennels. If we look at section 8, 8.1.3 requires that an applicant for license has to submit a list of all the dogs that will be housed at the kennel, suggesting that a dog that is not on that list cannot be found at that kennel in the future. I'm struggling to figure out how this would work for a boarding kennel. So it sort of suggests that they'd have to know in a year in advance all the dogs that would be at the kennel to be able to meet this test. I wonder if there could be a different way of wording this to meet the intent of this clause.
Very good point. We will look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Just read them all off, Councilor Bulmer, and then I'll.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. I'm getting there.
No problem.
Okay. 8.1. Okay. Oh, 8.1.8 talks about an applicant seeking to expand, but this is in the license application, and so it's 8.1.8 talks about someone who's seeking to expand the operation, either in area or in number of dogs. And it would appear to me that if an expansion or an increase in the number of dogs is an alteration, and section 10 is what deals with alterations. So, and section 10 also deals with the same there's a clause in section 10 that deals with essentially the same subject matter as 8.8.1. So I thought perhaps we don't need it in 8.8 or 8.1.8. It could just, the full wording could be only in section 10 to deal with all forms of alterations, including expansions. Okay. Next one, in 10, section 10 under changes / alterations to kennels. 10.1, it talks about an owner, after a license has been issued, an owner can't alter a kennel unless they provide written clearance from the OSPCA or a veterinarian that the kennel complies with section 11. This is exactly the same. The wording of this clause is exactly the same as the same clause in section 8. And I can understand in section 8 when you're relicensing or getting your first license that the kennel exists as it is, and you're providing a set of drawings and everything to show that. So no problem to getting this indication from the OSPCA or a veterinarian that it complies with section 11. But there does exist the possibility. So anyhow, the way that's worded suggests that you have to be in compliance with section 11 to get the license, to get your new license. Similarly here, it suggests you have to comply with the license to get your alteration. But what if a kennel doesn't comply with the license? And that's the point of the alteration they're requesting. If this was worded differently, that what they're asking for here is that since this is under the alterations, that it was to deal with that the alterations will comply with section 11, it will kind of make more sense and wouldn't put people trying to bring a kennel up to standard in a catch-22 situation. So I was hoping staff might be able to just sort of clarify the intent of this clause as well.
Sure, we'll look at that. Just, I can speak to that a little bit. I think what the intent here is that if someone receives a license, and they put certain measures in place, they can't then alter it, and then that would make it to a lower standard so that they no longer meet requirements. So that's why they're saying if you're altering it, that it still has to meet the current standards. But I can see your point that if they need to alter it to meet the standards, then we need to address that issue as well. So duly noted, we'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you. Two more, once I find them. Okay. Oh, yes. So 10.1.3, same thing. It's asking for a list of all dogs to be kept at the kennel. Again, being this is in the alteration section, is this list of dogs, is supposed to be the list of dogs that will be at the kennel during the alteration, or is it a list of dogs that are expected to be at the pound or at the kennel in the future? And again, it's be a challenge for anybody to, if it's a boarding kennel with dogs coming and going. I just want to clarify the intent of that kind of information. The last one is something that's missing from section 10. Section 10, it deals with alterations, and it does include the requirement for a site plan, but there's no requirement for providing any internal details, a floor plan. There's no requirement for a floor plan for alterations, but there is a requirement for a floor plan for a license. So my expectation is if I would go in for a building permit to alter my house, I need to provide a floor plan of that alteration. It would only make sense that I should provide a floor plan for an alteration to a kennel, just showing what the new floor plan would be. And that's it.
Perfect. All right, council, you've heard the recommendations from Councillor Bowman. Is everybody comfortable with those recommendations and having the CAO and Ivan report back? Yeah, good job. Okay, Ms. Whitefox. Oh, anything you want to add, Mr. Swindling, or are we okay to read the resolution?
All good. Good comments. Thank you very much for everyone's effort. Duly noted.
Okay, Ms. Whitefox.
That report ADM 2020-040 regarding the draft kennel bylaw be received for information, and that staff report back on council's recommendations to the draft kennel bylaw attached to this report as Schedule A.
Okay, I'm gonna move her for that, please.
I'll move.
Thank you, Councillor Bowmer, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. All in favor, Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor.
Councillor Bowmer, sorry, Bailey. you
Favor.
Switched on my screen. And Councillor Bowmer.
In favor.
Excellent. Nice work, Councillor Bowmer, Councillor Spoulos. All right, what are we at here now? We have that report on our bylaw enforcement occurrences third quarter. Ms. White-Fox, could you read that resolution, please?
That report ADM 2020-041 regarding the third quarter bylaw enforcement update be received for information.
Are you the mover for that, please? Councillor Goida, seconder, Councillor Bailey. Okay, any questions or comments on that one? Councillors, you can speak up. No. Okay, all in favor, Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Bowmer.
In favor.
I do want to say that this shows that there was a need for increased service levels for a bylaw officer, and I know Ivan's been working extremely hard to clear some of these files, and hopefully one day soon we'll be able to put a face to the name. I don't know if any of the councilors have met him personally yet. I have not, but appreciate the work he's doing. All right, and I believe Megan's going to join us soon. Did I get to ask? Yeah, everybody's in favor. Hello, Ms. Ferris.
Mr. Mayor, members of council,
Nice to see you, as usual.
nice to see everyone.
Excellent. All right, so we've seen the report. I don't know if you want to just give us a little bit of a synopsis for the public's sake, maybe, and we'll.
Sure. So at the previous council meeting, I brought forward a recommendation report regarding a particular use at a property known municipally as 410 Concession 7. The intent was to recognize an existing use to in part address a bylaw enforcement issue that the township was working through. I provided some draft bylaws at that time, which I believe was most of the components of the bylaw were supported by members of council, but there was a fair bit of discussion regarding two particular issues. One being the setback from an abutting vacant residential lot. I had proposed a 5-meter setback, and there was discussion about reducing that setback to a 2-meter setback instead of 5. And then there was also quite a bit of discussion about site plan control, and there was a request that township staff follow up on kind of different mechanisms, I think, to address site plan control. That's not the best summary of it, but that's it slightly in a nutshell. So I've drafted, so I've taken in consideration the comments and the requests of council. The recommendations were made to amend the bylaw. And so the bylaw in front of council here today is addressing those comments that council had provided previously. So I've just made some slight tweaks. I've made clarification that the interior side yard left setback, so the lot line that's closest to the vacant residential lot is that setback's reduced to 2 meters. So I've made that adjustment. And then there was also a request from council to clarify what I meant in terms of the requirements for any screening or buffering of both outdoor storage and shipping containers from public view. So I've added some clarifying wording there that links. So for outdoor storage, it links back to the bylaws outdoor storage screening requirements. And then I've used that same wording for shipping container. So I've clarified that, and then I've reduced the 2-meter setback as requested by council.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Goida.
Thanks very much, Megan. I know you've put a lot of hard work and consideration into this application, so thank you very much for doing that. I am in support of the 2 changes of the final bylaw as written, and I do not have any further questions. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, I echo Councillor Goyda's sentiments. So thank you for the hard work, and I likewise do not have any further questions.
All right, Councillor Bailey.
I will echo both of you. I don't have any questions. Thanks, Megan, for your work on that.
Okay, Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back and explaining. Yes, I support it, and I look forward to moving ahead on it.
Awesome. I have one question. At the very end, it says all shipping containers shall be screened from public view by opaque fencing, a masonry wall, landscaping, or berms. So does that mean that it has to be screened from public by opaque fencing and a masonry wall and landscaping, or just one of those options throughout that?
So to you, Mr. Mayor, it's intending one of those options, or it could be a combination if the township liked, but it's at a minimum one of those options. If it used the word and instead of or, then that would suggest all of it.
Okay, just that, okay. Perfect. All right, can we get a mover for that, please?
Sure, I'll move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder.
I'll second it.
Councillor Bulmer, all in favor. Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
Councillor Bailey.
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
I'm in favor. That's carried. That was quick. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, next we have the report, building 2020-009, building third quarter update. Ms. White Fox, you want to read the resolution, please?
That report, building 2020-009 with respect to the building department quarterly update for July to September 2020 be received for information.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure, I'll move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder. Councillor Bailey. Any questions or comments on that before we vote? None, all in favor. Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
Councillor Bailey.
Yep, in favor.
And Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
All right, I'm in favor. That's all carried. Emergency management, none. Roads, parks, none. Recreation, none. Correspondence. All right, is there a resolution for this one? It's fun. I'll read it first, and then I'll have comments. I'll talk about it.
So the resolution is that item 10.1 County's Road Master Action Plan request for input be received for information. And then
Thank
it's
you.
open if we have anything to add to that.
All right. All right, I'll get a mover for it anyways. I don't think there'll be anything to add to it. Yeah, I get a mover for that, so we'll discuss it. Councillor Goyda, seconder. Councillor Spoulos. Okay, so this was an email from the warden to myself, and the county's going to be undertaking a traffic master plan. And the email was pretty straightforward. He just sent it to me, and I ended up asking for some clarification, but he's just
We lost you there, Mr.
giving
Mayor.
local member council, local member. Oh. Hello, am I there?
Maybe turn off your video. We're losing your voice.
My kids are home. I hope they're not on the internet. Can you hear me? All right, sorry about that. So this was just the warden of the county giving the opportunity to the local member municipalities, councilors to provide feedback on where you'd like to see the traffic master plan, like what they'd want to focus that study on. So if you have any problem areas on county roads and these community safety zones as part of it, please forward your comments to, I believe it's Don Kudo. And that's pretty straightforward. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be advocating for community safety zones, and eventually we're going to be working towards, fingers crossed, electronic speed enforcement in these community safety zones. And I'm going to identify Aberfoyle, basically all the 50 zones in the hamlets on county road infrastructure as priority. So that's Lake Road, Aberfoyle, Badna, Arkle, and if I missed any, feel free to correct me, but that's basically what sums it up. So Councillor Goyda.
No, I have no extra questions. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, I support what you're proposing. It's ironic that my motion sort of crossed in the mail with what you're doing here, but I do think that we want to be on record on supporting moving on with these.
Okay, yeah, it is funny how the timing worked out that way. But trying to tell my kids to stay off the internet. Councillor Bailey.
No, I guess the only question I have, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm not seeing a definition of what a community zone is. Does the county have one, or is that something that's going to be created?
I have a very minimal understanding of community safety zones.
Okay.
When the province changed the legislation to allow them and the electronic speed enforcement, there was a set criteria that you must meet for them to be a community safety zone. And one of them is it had to be within a school, and then there's a few criteria. So maybe staff or I don't know, Mr. CAO. I don't know what will come first, but I guess we wouldn't see our traffic master plan. Would you? I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
ask
can
Mr.
speak to that.
Sure, go ahead.
In anticipation of the discussion here today, I had a discussion both with the OPP detachment commander as well as some staff at the county with regards to this. And the process that the county is utilizing to come up with this is they're undertaking their road master plan similar to what we're going to be doing. And they will be establishing criteria for the development of these community safety zones. So that hasn't been quantified yet. So while it's a little bit premature to be suggesting things now, there's no harm in suggesting it because they'll just add it to the list for consideration, but they still have to develop the criteria for it. So because we suggest something, it may not necessarily meet the criteria in the future, but at least they know which roads that we're considering. So that's where that's at. And I did have a discussion with the OPP with regards to the creation of community safety zones, and he did say that yeah, these can be a good thing, but the reality is that all it really means on in the big picture is that if you're caught speeding in a community safety zone, the fines and the points will be higher. It doesn't necessarily equate to automatic additional enforcement unless there's more resources allocated to the enforcement branch. But that's all details that can be worked out. But to answer the question, the criteria have not yet been developed. That will be part of the process that they will be developing. And then obviously we would try and have ours mirror what's done in the county so that the same criteria would apply to our roads.
And I'm almost certain there's provincial criteria already out. When they brought out this electronic speed enforcement, they had a list of criteria for these things. And you know, one of them I read was it's not supposed to be on a provincial highway, but we already have in Wellington County community safety zones on provincial highways. One that I know of two. There's probably more. One's in Morriston and one's in Rockwood. So that criteria from the province is important. One of the things they spoke of is that you can't just make your whole community a community safety zone. So you have to meet these benchmarks for it to be applicable. So that's what the county will work out. And Councillor Bailey, I'll try to find some more information on that and provide it. So Councillor Balmer, Councillor Bailey, do you have a follow-up or anything further?
Nope, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Balmer.
Well, I support this. The only intersection I could think of that wasn't on the list was Gordon and Maltby, but of course that intersection is under the jurisdiction of the city of Guelph. But I know it's another one that has a lot of not just accidents but fatalities.
I agree with that, Councillor Balmer, as I've attended some of those fatalities. With staff speaking to City of Guelph staff, I'd like the conversations to start revolving around whether or not there's going to be a roundabout there or something. That's something we can look into to help mitigate some of those accidents. Okay, anything else before I ask for a vote on accepting that information? Encourage you to get your submissions in if you want to add to it, please. All right, all in favor? Councillor Goida, now you're over here.
In favor.
Councillor Skoulas,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer.
In favor.
All right, in favor, that's passed. All
Mr.
right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
is there a way that maybe we can all share the suggestions so that they're not being bombarded with duplicates? Like, is there already sort of a list we're sending, or
I would just send them in.
bombard them? Okay.
County, they got lots of time. If you wanted to try to liaise with the other members, you can on your own, but. Okay, so Dufferin Mill Creek, regarding the threshold pair. And can I get Ms. Hoy Fox to read that resolution?
That item 10.2 Dufferin Mill Creek WSP October 15th, 2020 letter regarding threshold pair be received for information.
Mover for that, please. Councillor Goida, Councillor Spillis, second. Questions or comments on that one? Councillor Goida? Go around real quick.
No questions. I'm just thankful that they supplied this letter because I was not sure if it was something to be concerned about or not, but I'm satisfied with the answer that they've given in this letter. So I'm okay with everything, and I appreciate them doing that.
Councillor Spillis?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Councillor Bailey?
No, I'm just noticing at the end of the letter, it just says they'll determine if new threshold levels can be proposed. So I assume we'll be getting something in follow-up then.
So I read it, but Mr. Schwendiger, do you have any comment on that?
Oh, that's correct. If they're going to propose something new, then they'll submit that to us, and then our hydrogeologist can review that and comment on it.
Councillor Ballmer?
All good. Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Councillor Goida?
In favor.
Councillor Spillis?
In favor.
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Ballmer?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. It's carried. All right, Ms. White Fox, Township of North Glengarry Resolution, Safe Restart Agreement. Give me that resolution, please.
That item 10.3 Township of North Glengarry Resolution, Safe Restart Agreement funding be received for information.
Thank you. Get a mover for that.
Just as a question, did council want to support it or submit a similar one instead of just receiving for information, just so that
yeah,
they can understand the importance of trying to have some capital assistance funding too?
Okay, so it was just all right. Councillor Goida, do you have any comments to Mr. CEO?
I guess I would just like to ask our CAO if I know right now our office is still closed, but at some point in time we're going to be reopening, I hope anyway. And I'm sure that there's probably some I have no idea what's involved in reopening and what kind of retrofitting needs to take place in the office. And if there's a concern about some of the capital expenditures that need to be spent in order to do that, would you think that supporting this resolution and possibly if this were to go through, that would be an advantage or assistance to the township, or is this something that is not really relevant?
I think it's absolutely relevant, and I think it's important. Yes, we will need to do some upgrades or improvements to the facility to accommodate staff, to change some of the HVAC, those types of things. And right now, the way the funding has been set up, it's only for operating costs. But if we want to, for example, do some upgrades so that in-person council meetings can resume at some point, but you're going to need to do some upgrades to council chambers because you physically cannot fit in there with public and staff and council members within that space meeting the identified requirements. So for sure, we're going to need to have some capital costs as a result of the pandemic. So that's why we had this here to maybe get your support to
Right.
see that the funding could apply to capital costs as opposed to just operating costs.
Okay, so that being said, I would be happy to support supporting the Township of North Glengarry in their resolution to allow the capital expenditures be included.
Okay. All right, Councillor Spillis.
Yes, a question of the CAO. Would it have more credence if we made a separate motion rather than supporting someone else's motion?
I think it's kind of your choice. It gets the same circulation depending on how you address the motion, but it's your choice if you want to. It might have a little bit more profile if you have your own.
Okay. So I'd like to amend Councillor Goyda's motion by restating the North Glengarry motion to have Township of Puslinch and all the whereas as noted there. I'm not sure about the second last clause. I don't know if we or our county has been advised by the Minister of Finance that our capital costs are ineligible. But perhaps that can be reverted to say, it's understood that
Right.
the costs are ineligible. And then the last clause to be amended to include township, state township of Puslinch.
Okay. I am comfortable with all of that. Ms. Whitebox, did you catch that?
Yes,
And-
I've also amended the groups that we would send it to. So I do have the premier listed, our MPP, and if council chooses AMO as well.
Yeah, we might as well keep it on there. And obviously, Ms. Councillor Goyda, you're comfortable with that friendly amendment?
Yeah, and I think it's a good suggestion to put our own resolution forward. So thank you, Councillor Sepoulis, for that suggestion.
Okay. So procedural question, do we receive this one for information and then create a resolution, or how do we do that, Mr. Fundy?
Yeah, that'd be the cleanest, yes.
Okay. So that's what we'll do. We won't amend this resolution. We'll receive it for information, and then I'll just come back to Councillor Goyda to put it on the floor. All right. Councillor Bailey, you have any questions or comments on that?
I just wondered if we needed to be any more specific at the end. Capital expenditures, like for COVID related safety measures or something like that. I didn't know if that type of detail needed to be added or if it's just
I
assumed.
think there's enough detail at the first couple of whereases. It mentions COVID a couple of times in there.
Okay.
I think we're good.
No more.
Councillor Ballmer?
All good, thanks.
All right, so we're going to receive this one for information. All in favor, Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Sepoulis?
In favor?
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
And Councillor Ballmer?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. And then Councillor Goyda, you're going to propose a resolution, which we just already discussed. Ms. Hoy Fox, you're comfortable with the direction for altering this one and creating our own?
Yes, I have that council prepare a resolution in support, or that council directs staff to prepare a resolution in support of a safe restart agreement funding and forward the resolution to Premier Doug Ford, Ted Arnott, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
I don't know if that's exactly what we're looking for. Essentially, we're looking for the exact same resolution, but cut and paste Township of Puslinch in it.
Yep.
And then it's our own resolution. Is that what you said? Is it the same thing? I'm just maybe not quite clear.
So then maybe I could add that council directs staff to prepare a resolution similar to the resolution of Township of North Glengarry in support of a safe restart agreement funding and forward that resolution.
I think, Courtney, we can just literally use the wording instead of passing a resolution to pass a resolution. We'll just pass a resolution that's got the same wording as North Glengarry's. We'll just change the wording as we go here.
Okay.
That's what we're after.
Did
Perfect.
you, and do you need me to read that, or are we comfortable that that's what we'll, okay.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mover, I'm going to say that's Councillor Goyda, right?
Sure.
Councillor Sepoulis, you going to second that? Yeah, all in favor, Councillor Goyda,
In favor.
Councillor Sepoulis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Ballmer,
Favor.
I'm in favor, that's carried. All right. council report. All right, I have some, I thought was great news. We had that call with Dr. Mercer. It was pretty informative, but just the same, really stressed that you shouldn't be going out to dinner with people outside of your home to restaurants, and that's how this is spreading. But you know, and to keep to your bubble and physical distancing is huge. We need to keep maintaining that physical distancing to stop the spread. But as this came to an end, I asked Dr. Mercer specifically about our Santa Claus parade, and I posed the question, and I have to give June Williams so much credit for coming up with this idea to park the parade and have the people drive by. It's just brilliant. They were all impressed on the call with that. So I said to them, that was our plan in Pusslinch to do this stationary parade. And that my question to Dr. Mercer was, if we have floats, do the people that provide the floats have to stay in their cars, or can they be on the floats? And then if we have multiple floats, is the 100 people outside applicable to that? And the answer from them was no. So you could have a lot of floats, but there are some caveats to that, that if there are multiple families on the floats, they have to physically distance from themselves. So if it's your own family, then it's fine. And then each float, because of generally their size, there's enough physical distance between people. So I felt that was, and I'll ask Mr. CAO if I'm misspeaking before I go on to council. But I thought this is wonderful news, because then the parade can literally be stationary, and instead of sitting in their car waving, they'll be right on their float that they've worked so hard to prepare for this community. So I was super excited about that. And then maybe Mr. Schwendinger, if there's anything you'd probably give a better synopsis of the meeting with Dr. Mercer, but it was pretty much everything we've been hearing over the news.
Yep, I think you're right with the your description of the parade. That is a good way to do it. We're actually getting information the last couple of days from the folks trying to organize the parade to try and finalize a few of the details, so that will work out well with them. And yeah, the other information is essentially what we've been hearing, and masks and separation and all that kind of stuff. It's the key thing. There isn't as much of a risk in terms of I think what the phrase was that she used. It's not the things that we touch, it's the people that we're near and that we interact with. That's the biggest area that you have to focus on. But what I already asked for was to see if we could get a copy of the slide deck from that presentation. And if we are able to get a copy, I'll make sure I circulate that to all the council.
One other thing that I just remembered, she spoke about staff in the offices, and our municipal staff returning to the office. She's still of the opinion that if staff can work from home and provide those services, that they shouldn't be in the office. So she's been pretty steady on that message, and so that's I believe that's the route we're going to continue to go down. Still receiving the odd query as to why we don't have municipal staff back at work, but that's the message I send out. The medical doctor of our health department says that if you can work at home and provide your services, stay home. So that's what we're sticking with. And so other than that, any councillors have any reports they want to bring? Councillor Bulmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot to mention at our last council meeting that the Heritage Committee had an opportunity to have a meeting again. They hadn't had one for a while. And it's been a few years in the making, but thanks to the hard work of several summer students that the township has funded for the committee, we're moving towards finally getting a heritage registry. It's something that the province enabled back in 2006, and while we had an inventory of heritage structures prior to 2006, the township had never converted that inventory into a meaningful list that was of quality, good enough quality to create a registry. And so I'm hoping that in the next while, thanks to staff's work, we'll see a report to council with a list of that registry. It's been difficult for the committee to do their work, as this has been sort of a cloud trying to knit fog for years, trying to get this nailed down, because the township just didn't have the resources to put towards it. So I think it was 2 summer students. Well, it was Kelly Patzer, many of you may remember. She was the one that really started the process to make this a meaningful to put the information in a meaningful form. And then we had a summer student really bring it to life. And now it's actually quite a usable list. And I think it's going to help staff in the future, because right now when we get an inquiry about a potential heritage property, it's a lot of work for staff to look into it. And this will pay off in the future, making it much easier for staff to get a handle on what the township considers significant enough to be in a registry. So thank you. And by the way, this does not mean it's designated under the Heritage Act. This is just formalizing the inventory. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Any further, please? Councillor Bailey?
Yeah. 2 things. The first is, I just wanted to let council know that, so Karen Chisholm's been the one coordinating the climate change mitigation plan through the county. And she's been collecting data, and we've had some advisory group sessions. And she came up with a list of proposed community actions that she wanted to discuss with the different municipalities in the county. And the focus was on ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So Glenn and I attended a meeting, and she wanted to just gauge interest and gather a little bit more comments on some of the recommendations, and to discuss what might be most relevant in Puslinch. So we discussed a few things on the agenda, were things like transportation, EV stations, charging stations, net zero buildings, district energy sharing, green design guidelines, something called the PACE loan, and waste diversion. So she's still kind of gathering a lot of the data, but she's hoping to have a presentation for us and other municipalities, I think, coming in the near future. Don't know if it was November. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of on the horizon, and we should be seeing her in the future. The second thing I'm kind of excited to share is I have finally booked our the first Puslinch Safe Committees or Safe Communities Committee meeting for next week. So I finally have gathered a few people to start the process going. We're going to have an initial meeting next week, and then hopefully we can get this committee up and going, and then be able to share some good stuff. So we'll look for some input as well from council on that. That's all.
Excellent. Councillor Bailey, did you receive my email with the contact for the OPP?
I did. Yes, I just got that. So that will be great to add. Thanks.
Excellent. Anything else from the other councillors? No? All right. Ms. Whitefox, you have a resolution to read, please?
The council receives the mayor's updates and council member reports for information.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Ballmer, you haven't moved something in a while.
I'll move.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Bailey. Second. All in favor? Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
And Councillor Ballmer.
In favor.
I'm in favor. It's carried. Bylaws, Ms. Whitefox.
That the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-048 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 023-18 as amended, being the zoning bylaw of the Township of Puslinch.
Thank you. Mover for that, please.
I'll move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconded by Councillor Ballmer. Councillor Ballmer, no seconded. I need
Yep.
somebody to say yes. Oh, he's saying yes. All in favor? Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
And Councillor Ballmer.
Favor.
I'm in favor. That's carried. We don't have a closed session. Any business arising from the closed session because we didn't have one. Notice of motion. We've read it. Councillor Spoulos, did you want to make any further comments to it prior to?
Sure,
discussion?
yeah. I just want to give some reasons for having this motion. First of all, we have to go through the county because it is obviously county road. I found out that they are considering the implementation of community safety zones in areas of the county. The areas have not been determined, as the mayor said. They have not formulated any criteria. But if they do proceed, I think it's very prudent on our part to be proactive and make them aware of our concerns in our township with respect to Brock Road. We've done that with Lake Road. We made a motion. We asked them to consider that as a community safety zone as well. Now, we've tried our first kick at the cat with respect to Brock Road. We tried to get the county to look at reducing the number of lanes. The matter is still under consideration by the county. In the meanwhile, work's proceeding. It's virtually done. Traffic-wise, it's got to be one of the busiest road sections in the county, if not the busiest, with a 50 km/h speed limit. You know, we have community facilities abutting it, as I mentioned in the motion. We have a school nearby. We have some private businesses and homes on front. It is a true community with a lot of community-oriented facilities. Now, with the construction of roundabouts, we thought, okay, we'll see what happens. Perhaps the speeds will decrease. Well, you can go through there. I've gone through there numerous times, and I'm slowing that down the traffic. Everybody's backing up behind me and zooming around me because I'm doing 50. I think we got to be more assertive in reducing the speed limit. If we designate a section of roadway or have the section of road designated as safety zone, obviously, as mentioned before, the fines will be doubled and will allow for increased enforcement. The other thing that having the community safety zone designation place and speeding continues, the way the legislation is written, we'll be able to request the installation of traffic speed cameras. Without the designation, I'm not aware the legislation permits that. The other point is we spend funds to uplift the main streeting. We've received grant money. We've added sidewalks and widened it. We put in lighting to make this more of a community pedestrian-friendly environment. If the speeding continues, all I've done is for naught, is be back to what we had before. And I think we have to move forward and up the ante and get increased visibility, and ultimately, if we have to, we'll ask for cameras. So I ask you to consider and support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Spoulos. I support this motion 100%. You know, we may want to consider adding, you know, the 50 km/h zones through hamlets, but I'm also comfortable with doing this one first. Another improvement that this council took the initiative to do was put that sidewalk in for Aberfoyle Public School. Now, not everybody's taking advantage of it, but people are parking at the community center and crossing Brock Road. And so this is all part of, you know, a larger plan. So I'm supportive of it. And so Councillor Bailey, or not Bailey, Loida.
Yes, I would agree. Thank you, Councillor Zapoulis, for you've put a lot of work and thought into this, and I agree. I support this 100%. I agree that it's just you know, a portion of what is needed in order to make this the sort of walkable, community-oriented little area that you're speaking of. And I agree that perhaps there is other areas in the township that would benefit from this as well, but I think none are quite the same as this section, with all of the community facilities and the school and just the through traffic from the highway to the city of Guelph. I think that you know, I would hope that the county, if they're going to consider it anywhere, this would be the best place to have it. So thanks for your hard work, and I definitely would support this.
Thank you.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I support this 100%. I think it's a wonderful motion, and I have been walking, parking at the community center and walking the kids to school and back, and it is really nice to be able to walk through there and back and forth to the community center. There's a lot of traffic through there right now, but the sidewalks are really making it easy to do that, and it's nice. It's a community feel. It's starting to feel a little more like a nice walking space. So that would be wonderful.
Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Sapoulis. Yeah, what's great about this is the mayor mentioned it, that it's part of a bigger plan as well. This is consistent with a vision for Aberfoyle that this community put in place back in, I believe, 2008 in the form of its design guidelines for this corridor to make it, as Councillor Goyda mentioned, a safe, walkable area. It's the intention is that this area become a destination, and it's a destination where people feel that it is safe to cross the road, use the sidewalks, stay a while, not just a drive-through destination, not just a drive-through location. So I fully support this, as I think it's continuing a vision that was put in place for Aberfoyle a long time ago to make sure that Aberfoyle was well positioned to do well after the construction of the Highway 6 bypass. So I look forward to seeing some benefits come from this, especially the implementation of automated speed enforcement, since we're no longer allowed to call it photo radar.
Thank you. All right. I guess because they don't use radar, it's a laser. That's why we're not allowed to call it photo radar, or it's a political thing. One of the two, or both. All right. So all in favor, Councillor Goyda?
I think you
I
have.
don't need a mover. I need a mover for that. Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, Councillor Spillis moves it. I need a seconder.
Sure.
Councillor Bailey, all in favor. Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spillis, you better
In
be in favor. Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
and Councillor Bummer.
Yes, in favor.
That's an I'm in favor. So I do want to say that if the county implements the community safety zones, there's no guarantee that we're going to get electronic speed enforcement. There's actually some pushback on that, but I can tell you I'm working on it and I'm building support, and I believe there's support for it around County Council Horseshoe. But as you're all well aware, is that there's a process to follow and it takes a bit of time, but we're going to keep working hard for it. So I'm optimistic. Any new business from any members of council? Announcement. Anyone? No. Confirmatory bylaw then. That's what I thought.
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-049 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Puslinch and its meeting held on the 21st day of October 2020.
Can I get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Councilor Bummer. Councilor Spillis will second it. All in favor? Councilor Goyda? Am I cutting out? Councilor Goyda, you in favor?
In favor.
Councilor Spillis?
In favor?
Councilor Bailey?
In favor.
Councilor Bummer?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. And adjournment, please, Ms. White Fox.
The council hereby adjourns at 4:58 p.m.
Thank you. Mover for that, please.
Sure.
Councilor Goyda, seconder, Councilor Ballmer.
Yes.
All in favor, Councilor Goyda,
In favor.
Councilor Spillis,
In favor?
Councilor Bailey,
In favor.
Councilor Ballmer.
In favor.
All right, I'm in favor. We will see everyone at 7 p.m. Enjoy your hour and 58 minutes off.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See everyone.
Bye.
Bye, staff.